The pounding on my door jolted me awake at 5 a.m. There she stood, Catherine Wells, the untouchable CEO of our company, mascara streaked down her face, shivering in the rain. "I have nowhere else to go," she whispered. "If you've ever had your perfectly ordinary life turned upside down in an instant, stay with me until the end of this story." What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about success, vulnerability, and second chances. Like and subscribe if you've ever believed that sometimes the most broken people are just waiting for someone brave enough to see past their walls. My name is Daniel Cooper. 38 years old, single father to my amazing 10-year-old daughter Lily, and middle management at Horizon Technologies. Nothing special. Just a guy trying to keep his head above water since my wife walked out 3 years ago, claiming family life was suffocating her creativity. I'd settled into a comfortable routine: wake up, make Lily's lunch, drop her at school, work, pick her up, homework, dinner, bedtime stories, repeat. It wasn't exciting, but it was ours. Catherine Wells was different. 42, razor-sharp, and intimidating as hell. She'd built Horizon from nothing into a tech powerhouse. The office whispers painted her as cold, calculating, married to her work. Her recent divorce from venture capitalist Richard Thornton had been splashed across business magazines, but she never showed a crack in her perfect facade at work. Not once. Until she showed up at my door that rainy morning. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely audible above the storm. "Your address was in the HR files. I just needed someone who wouldn't judge me right now." I stood frozen in my faded Star Wars t-shirt and plaid pajama bottoms, trying to process that my boss's boss's boss, actually, was standing on my doorstep looking completely broken. "Come in," I finally managed, stepping aside. "You're soaked." She entered hesitantly, like a wounded animal. My small suburban home must have seemed a world away from her penthouse downtown. I scrambled to make coffee while she sat at my kitchen table, hands trembling slightly. "Dad?" Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Who's talking?" Catherine straightened immediately, trying to compose herself. The CEO mask slipping back into place. "This is Ms. Wells," I explained awkwardly. "From my work." She just needed to discuss something important. Lily, with that unfiltered honesty only children possess, looked Catherine up and down. "You look sad. Do you want to borrow my stuffed penguin? He helps me when I'm sad." Something in Catherine's carefully constructed walls crumbled. A single tear escaped before she could stop it. "That's very kind," she whispered. "But I'll be okay." Lily nodded solemnly. "Dad makes good hot chocolate when people are sad. Better than coffee." Then she padded back to her room, leaving us in stunned silence. "Smart kid," Catherine said finally. "The smartest," I agreed, switching from coffee to hot chocolate. "Now, do you want to tell me what's going on?" The story spilled out between sips of hot chocolate. The divorce had been finalized yesterday, but that wasn't what broke her. It was what came after. Richard had called a surprise board meeting, leveraging his connections to challenge her leadership, claiming her emotional instability made her unfit to continue as CEO. 15 years, she said, voice hollow. "I built that company for 15 years. And they're voting tomorrow morning on whether to remove me." I sat back, stunned. Can he do that? He's convinced 3 board members already. I need 2 more votes to stay. She looked up, vulnerability naked on her face. "The thing is, Daniel, I don't even know if I should fight it. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am falling apart." The woman before me was so different from the Catherine Wells who strode through our offices making decisive calls that affected thousands of employees. This Catherine was human, wounded, questioning everything. "Why me?" I asked. "Why come here?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Last year's holiday party. You brought Lily because your sitter cancelled. She spilled punch on my white dress. I winced at the memory. I apologized 100 times. No, she interrupted. It's what you did next. Everyone was staring, waiting for me to explode. But you just knelt down to Lily's level, told her accidents happen, and helped her clean up without making her feel small. Then you looked at me and said, "Kids teach us what really matters, don't they?" I barely remembered saying that. I've thought about that moment a lot, she continued. About what really matters. I've spent 15 years building something that Richard could take away in 15 minutes. And for what? I have no children. My marriage failed. I live alone in a penthouse filled with expensive things that mean nothing. Dawn was breaking outside my kitchen window. Soon I'd need to wake Lily for school, make breakfast, pack lunches, the normal routine of a life Catherine seemed to suddenly envy. You haven't failed, I said quietly. You built something extraordinary. But at what cost? Her eyes met mine. What good is success if there's no one to share it with? Before I could answer, Lily reappeared, fully dressed for school, backpack in hand. Are you staying for breakfast? She asked Catherine directly. Dad makes funny-shaped pancakes on Thursdays. Catherine looked between us, something shifting in her expression. I should go. I've imposed enough. Stay, I heard myself say. Pancakes solve most problems. At least temporarily. Something like hope flickered across her face. I'd like that. Breakfast was surreal, my daughter chatting animatedly with the CEO of my company about her science project while I flipped pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. Catherine laughed at Lily's jokes, the weight momentarily lifting from her shoulders. I caught myself staring at her more than once, seeing the woman behind the executive for the first time. After dropping Lily at school, I made a decision that could have cost me my job. I'm coming with you, I told Catherine. To the board meeting. Daniel, you can't. I'm not going to speak. But you shouldn't face this alone. The boardroom fell silent when we entered together. Richard Thornton's smug expression faltered slightly. 10 board members sat around the massive table, their faces unreadable. Ms. Wells, Richard began smoothly, we were beginning to worry you wouldn't join us. Catherine straightened her shoulders. I saw her hands trembling slightly and wished I could steady them. Before we vote, she said, her voice gaining strength with each word, I want to remind everyone what Horizon was before I built it. A failing startup with 3 employees and a flawed product. I didn't just save this company, I transformed it. She walked slowly around the table. But I made mistakes too. I prioritized growth over people. Profit over purpose. I forgot that companies aren't just balance sheets and market shares, they're human beings with lives and families. Richard scoffed. This emotional display only proves my point. No, Richard, she countered. It proves I'm finally seeing clearly. Fire me if you want. But know that I plan to build something new, something that values both ambition and humanity. I watched the board members exchange glances. One woman nodded slightly. I move to table this vote, she said suddenly. I'd like to hear more about Ms. Wells' new vision for Horizon. 2 others quickly agreed. Richard's face darkened as he realized he was losing control of the narrative. 3 hours later, Catherine emerged from the boardroom, exhausted but standing tall. I'm still CEO, she said simply. For now. The weeks that followed transformed both our lives. Catherine implemented sweeping changes at Horizon, flexible work policies for parents, mental health resources, community involvement initiatives. The company culture shifted palpably. Productivity actually increased. She came for dinner every Thursday. Lily adored her, and Catherine blossomed in my daughter's presence, helping with homework and sharing stories. We grew closer, cautiously navigating the complicated dynamics of our professional relationship and this new personal connection. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Catherine and I sat on my back porch, watching fireflies dance in the summer darkness. "I never thanked you properly," she said softly. "For that morning. You didn't need to." "I did. I do." She turned to face me. "I was drowning, Daniel. You threw me a lifeline when you had every reason to let me sink." "That's not who I am," I said simply. "I know that now." Her hand found mine in the darkness. "That's why I trust you enough to tell you something I haven't told anyone else." My heart quickened. "What is it?" "I'm stepping down as CEO." I stared at her, stunned. "But you fought so hard." "I fought to leave on my terms, not Richard's," she clarified. "I'm not leaving Horizon. I'm creating a new division focused on technology that helps families and communities. Smaller scale, bigger impact. You'd give up the corner office for that?" Her laugh was soft in the darkness. "The corner office is overrated. So is power for power's sake." She squeezed my hand. "These Thursday dinners have taught me more about what matters than 15 years of board meetings." "And what matters?" I asked, barely breathing. "Connection," she whispered. "Purpose. Building something meaningful with people you care about." The air between us changed, charged with possibility. Slowly, giving me every chance to pull away, Catherine leaned forward and kissed me. Not the commanding kiss of a CEO, but something questioning and hopeful. When we separated, I saw vulnerability and strength perfectly balanced in her eyes. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Relationships. Family. I never prioritized learning." "Nobody does," I assured her. "We all just figure it out as we go." 6 months later, Catherine moved into our home. Not the penthouse, she sold that. Our modest suburban house with the creaky stairs and the backyard where Lily was building a science project greenhouse. Catherine helped her every weekend, business suits exchanged for jeans and t-shirts, hands dirty with soil instead of ink from signing contracts. Her new division at Horizon became the company's fastest-growing segment. She worked reasonable hours, made it to Lily's soccer games, and built something sustainable rather than just profitable. I watched her transform from someone who measured success in stock prices to someone who measured it in moments of connection. 1 year to the day after she knocked on my door at 5 a.m., I asked Catherine to marry me. Not because she was my boss, she wasn't anymore, I'd transferred to her division, and not because she was accomplished or powerful. But because she had shown me that it's never too late to redefine what matters, to rebuild a life around love instead of achievement. "Are you sure?" she asked, tears shimmering. "I'm still learning how to be part of a family." "That's the secret," I told her. "We're all still learning. Every day." When Lily heard the news, she hugged Catherine fiercely. "I knew you needed us," she said with a child's simple wisdom. "That's why you came that morning when you were sad." Catherine knelt to my daughter's level, just as I had done with the spilled punch. "You're right," she said. "I needed you both more than I knew. Life isn't perfect. Catherine still works too hard sometimes. I still struggle with insecurities about my more modest career. Lily still misses her mother occasionally. But we're building something real together, a family formed not from obligation but from choice, from recognizing what truly matters when everything else falls away. So if you're watching this and wondering if it's too late to change your path, to prioritize connection over achievement, to knock on someone's door at 5 a.m. and admit you're not okay, it's not too late. The most beautiful lives are often built from the rubble of our carefully constructed plans. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who might be measuring success by the wrong metrics. Sometimes the most important turning points come disguised as our lowest moments. Sometimes the people who seem to have everything are just waiting for someone to see that they have nothing that truly matters. And sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is open our door to someone who's lost their way, or be brave enough to knock when we've lost our own.